Hey YouTubers, welcome to another clarinet video. This is the second installment of a series I call the Clarinetist Vocabulary. Now the reason this is being presented is to help, you might say, present an approach to a common language so clarinet players can really share their experiences and also understand their own experiences when they're playing the clarinet. And in order to do that, we need to be able to, say, take the gray goo of our experience of playing and break it down into its different parts. Not just to separate, just to be separating, but so we can distinguish all these parts so that we can rightly understand how they fit together, how they make the recipe that's going to best please us. And of course, you know, when you're really starting out with objective knowledge, since the last video was mainly anecdotal, it's always good to start at the beginning. So where we're going to start here is with the very nature of musical tone. And the first question we're going to answer is exactly what distinguishes musical tone from random noise. You know, in music school we were given ear training where a teacher tortured us by playing notes on the piano or playing melodies or playing chords, and we were supposed to learn how to write them down. I think we referred to it as ear straining when I was there. But, you know, for all the training that I got in terms of just being able to recognize pitches and listen to chords and being able to write down what I heard, no one ever talked about the nature of musical sound itself and how to really listen to the musical sound and, you might say, come away with knowledge that's very valuable in terms of our own music making by accurately listening to sound. When we isolate musical sound itself, we find that it has intrinsic, or what I call qualitative elements, and it has extrinsic elements too. For instance, duration is extrinsic to the musical sound, and also volume, loud and soft. But inside the musical sound, what makes that musical sound the same musical sound, whether you're playing it long or short, or loud or soft, is that this musical sound has a consistency in pitch frequency, first of all. So the pitch is constant. That enables us to recognize the note as an E or an B flat or an A or D or whatever. Then besides the pitch constancy, then you also have a color constancy. Now the color has a certain recipe of overtones in it, certain emphasis of certain overtones and de-emphasis of others that enables us to recognize something as a coherent, repeatable color. So we can say, gee, that's the clarinet playing the E, not the flute. That's the oboe playing the E, not the bassoon, and so on and so forth. So that's how we recognize the different timbres, different colors that are distinguished when you play different instruments. Okay, besides pitch and color, there is also another element, and that is the element of shape. Now, shape is a very unique thing, especially when it comes to the clarinet. You see the little drawing here of shape I've done. You notice that I haven't drawn it just as one thing, but it's very, very dark, rich color in the middle, and then as it falls away, it gets lighter and lighter. And the outer parameters of it, though it's certainly definable as a nice circle there, as you see, those outer parameters are also kind of soft. They're not hard or sharp to the ear. This is a very nice shape to think of when you think of the clarinet sound. But to simply say that the clarinet sound should be round, and I'm talking about classical clarinet now, to say that the sound should be round is somewhat misleading, and it doesn't really yield the very best results. A round sound on the clarinet usually requires a low forward tongue position to a certain extent, and the sound really gets quite hollow. So that center of that rich center you see there actually begins to really kind of white out and lighten up in the middle. And that loss of center, that hollowness, has an effect on how well the sound carries. That's why when professional clarinet players speak about the clarinet, they usually talk about the concentration or the focus of the sound. That's why I've drawn the sound there to have a very rich, dark center. But let's flip that sound on its side and see what the shape looks like there. I see that's quite a different shape. That's more of a teardrop shape or an onion shape or whatever you want to call it. But that very dense, rich colored focus point, you can see that it draws up part of that circle into a point. So it's more like the, say, head of a comet or something like that. Well, that point, actually, that concentration is there in the sound, not only to get the pitch up on the clarinet the way it should be, but also to get the sound to carry. You see, it's not the volume of the sound that makes the clarinet carry a great distance. It's more or less the shape of the sound. So it's kind of a laser-like quality. You know, a laser beam doesn't have to have a huge volume in order to carry a long way. It just has to be concentrated. And it's the same way with the clarinet sound. Many people think, boy, I'll get a big sound, so they drop their tongue and they pump a lot of air into the horn, and then they produce a very dispersed, hollow, kind of pale colored sound, and it feels big to them up close, but it doesn't really carry very far. And the reason it doesn't carry is because it lacks the concentration. Think about a light that's very dispersed. It may be a very broad light up close, but it just doesn't go very far into the distance. Whereas if you take and you narrow down the breadth of that light and you concentrate it, then it'll carry quite a bit further. So it's the same way with musical sound. So the concept, at least, that I've always felt is best for the clarinet, for the characteristic clarinet tone, is not the round sound, because it does produce something hollow, but rather the very focused kind of dense kind of sound. And the shape it produces is sort of onion-shaped, or teardrop-shaped, or you might say comet-shaped. But anyway, these are pictures, intellectual pictures that, they may sound a little naive and a little foolish to you, but, if you begin to try to replicate that shape in sound that you can see in your mind's eye, so to speak, I think that you'll find that the consistency of your sound and the carrying power of your sound and the overall richness of your sound will improve quite a bit. So anyway, those are some of the intrinsic elements. Actually, those three elements, pitch, color, and shape, are the only three elements that there are inside, intrinsic to the clarinet sound itself. And so extrinsic, we have the volume, loud and soft, and of course duration. Those are extrinsic elements. Those can change all over the place, while the pitch, color, and shape remain constant. But there are a few other considerations, and we'll be talking about those in relationship to the musical sound in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then.